Now that you have set up your appearance, we're going to sit down and take a look at settings. Settings are located at the last option in your dashboard. When you select them, you will see a menu that will come out. That menu gives you several options, and we're going to go through each one of the options and why you should be concerned with it. General settings are exactly like the customized settings that you had worked through. It's nice to know about this option because sometimes the customized animations don't work depending on browsers and updates. This gives you a hard HTML location to go to where you can update your site title and your tagline. In addition, you can go ahead and set a customized URL for your site. You can input your email address so people can communicate with you. Below your email address is membership options. You can allow anyone to register, or you can restrict that membership. I would encourage you to restrict membership at this time. In the event that you're running a blog that you are actively looking for having people sign up for, you can actually set default user roles. Each one of these roles has rights and responsibilities that go with it, and I'll share a link to what those rights and responsibilities are for additional reading. You are going to go ahead and set your time zone. We are at -5 for Eastern. You can set your date format to a preference that you like. I prefer the month spelled out, so I leave that as the default setting. Your time format, whether it's 24-hour or 12-hour AM PM time. And you also have the option of setting up when your week begins. Writing settings give you the option of changing things like emoticons into graphics. You can deal with setting post categories, and we'll get into what categories are later, whether you want them uncategorized or you want a default setting. You can also deal with your post type. If you want standards, which is where we're going to leave it today, generally for writing, but if you're a video or an audio podcaster, you may want to get into changing some of these settings to get your blog to work with the way you would like things to function. Below that, you can set up pop-up mail servers, logins, and things to allow people to post by email and all sorts of things. And that's beyond the scope of what we're going to do in the class. So we're going to leave that blank at this time. Under your reading settings, you have the options of having your front page be your latest post or a static page, and we will deal with setting up those options a little later in the class. You can sit down and choose how many posts your blog will show at a time, and you also have the ways to customize your RSS feed. And again, these are things that we will get into later in the class. You also have a search engine visibility check. At this point, it's set to discourage search engines from indexing the site. You want to uncheck this at this point so that Google and other search engines begin to crawl your site and generate content. This way you can begin to be found in Google searches. Under discussion settings, you have ways to get your blog to communicate with others. If you link to somebody else's blog, you can have WordPress communicate and send a link to them. You have comment settings where you can control how people comment on your blog, whether you want them to be able to comment at all, whether you want things to close after a period of day. You have a great deal of power on how you would like people to interact with your blog. Most importantly, you can have the ability to hold a comment from posting until you approve it. You can see here an administrator must always approve a comment. I would encourage you check that box. This way, nothing appears on your blog without you giving the absolute say-so to do so. You'll notice that you can hold a comment if it contains certain words. As we go down, you can blacklist comments. So if you see that there are certain types of things that are appearing in comments where you just want it to be automatically marked as spam, if you can trace down to the pattern of words that are being used and such things that the spammers are using, you can actually preset that. In the event that you're having people interact with your blog regularly, you can go ahead and deal with avatars for identity and all sorts of things like that, and set it up so that your blog begins to take on the sense of a community. Again, for the audience and the way that we're working with our blog in this class, this will be a little beyond what we're going to be working with, but there may come a time where you're doing show blogs or things like that where this could be useful. Again, as always, when you complete your settings, hit the Save Changes so that it is remembered. Under Media Settings, you can set up defaults for thumbnails on how you want pictures and videos to embed into your site. So as you begin to work with your blog and customize how you want this to work, if you begin to see preferences that you would like to have automatically assigned by default and not have to tailor them, you can go ahead and set these here. Permalinks represent the URL title for each of the stories and pages associated with your blog. As we had said, everything on the internet has a unique location called a Universal Resource Locator, or a URL. In this case, WordPress sets it up as websites.beonair.com slash your username, a question mark, p equals a number. It's simple for the database. It's something that they can run through and generate randomly. And by default, it's very easy for the database. The problem is when we go back and take our Google Analytics reports, we have no association between what this URL is and our actual readings in our Google Analytics report. To maximize our use of Google Analytics, we want to sit down and set up a little bit different setting here so that we can use Google Analytics more effectively. If you notice, you can set it up to day and name. In this case, it lists the day and the name of the post. This way, when you're looking at your Google Analytics report, you get a sense of the chronology of when this post that's popular took place, and also the name so that you can go back and reread that post and know what it was people are resonating with. You can do it under month and name, numeric, which I would advise against, your post name, which could be helpful, but I believe, honestly, the best universal setting for you to use for being able to make sense of your Google Analytics reports is the day and name setting. So I'm going to ask you to please go ahead and change that to day and name setting. Underneath that, if you have a reason for making customized categories and URLs, you do have the option of doing that. But I would encourage you, use the day and name setting. After you've finished watching this, I'm going to ask you to go out and set up your permalink settings, and I'm going to ask you to upload a screenshot of that as part of our assignments.